So how do you find tax foreclosure properties? Well, my friend, you are in the right place because this is attorney Bob Diamond. I've been buying at tax sales and advising people to buy tax sales for many, many years. And I'm here to tell you how it's done, how to find those properties, and stay on to the end because at the end I'm going to show you a very special second way to make money at tax sales where you never have to bid on a property, you never have to put up any cash, and you can make more money than most people that bid and even spend millions. So let's get right into it. So how do you find tax foreclosure properties? Well, the first thing to do is to verify that in your state and your area, they actually sell tax foreclosure properties. Because in some states, they only sell things called tax liens, and a tax lien is not a way to get the property. A tax lien is a financial instrument where you get a high interest rate. Now, often those interest rates are extremely high. Like, for example, in Texas, they have a 25% penalty. So if you buy a tax lien and someone pays you off the next day, well, they pay what you paid plus 25%. And if they wait another 6 months, they pay another 25%, which is a huge interest rate, especially if they pay you quickly. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about how do you find properties that you could actually buy at the auction. So the first thing to do is to check if in your state they actually sell tax deeds. So I've included at the bottom of this video a link where you can get a list of the states that have tax deed sales versus only tax lien sales. So you can download that. It's completely free with my compliments. That'll tell you if you're even in a state where you can buy properties at tax deed sale. So look over that list, and if your state is one where they offer tax deeds, then I want you to do a simple Google search for the county where you want to buy properties. I'm assuming that's probably the county where you live. So let's say that you lived in DeKalb County, Georgia, which is one of the places that sells tax deeds. Then I would do a search, DeKalb County, Georgia, tax sale list. So DeKalb County, Georgia is the name of the county, plus the state, plus the words tax sale list. And if they're holding tax sales, that will probably pull up the list. If it doesn't, then what I want you to do is call the county tax collector and ask them, say, hey, when someone doesn't pay their real estate taxes, who sells off the properties at auction? And they'll tell you. And that is the party that you want to contact. And that may be the county sheriff, might be the county treasurer. It'll definitely be a county official. And that's the person who will have the list of upcoming sales. So then you'll go to their website. Almost always you can download the list. You don't want to buy the lists that are commercially available, the ones that people are selling, because those are always out of date because these lists are updated constantly. And the reason they're updated is when they first put out the list, which is going to be about 45 days prior to the auction, it's a big list. But then as the auction date gets closer, people rush in to pay their taxes. Now, why did they do that? Well, because they don't want to lose their property, that's why. So when they have an actual deadline for the sale date, they start scrambling. Honestly, they start going to pawn shops and pawning things. They start bugging all their friends and family to throw them some money. They finally sell that extra car that they have. They do whatever they need to do to try to get some money together. So many of the properties listed on the initial list, published again about 45 days prior to the auction, well, a lot of those are never going to actually be sold. Probably 2/3 of the properties will fall off the list because of people paying them. So because of that, we have some special strategies that I want to recommend for you to manage this list. So get the list and then determine how far away you are from the sale. Now, maybe you're 10 days from the sale, that's one thing. Maybe you're 45 days from the sale, that's another. What you want to do until you're about 5 or 6 days prior to the sale is restrict your due diligence to electronic due diligence that you can do at home. So what's that? Well, the first thing you do is look over the list and cross off the areas you're not interested in. So if something is way across the county in a section of town that you don't care for, just cross those off because you're going to have more properties than you look at anyway on the list. So cross those off. So you're going to then get a subset. It'll probably be about 1/3 of the list. Out of that list, then you start doing electronic due diligence. What that means is you look up the property on Google Street View. So you go to Google Maps, you put in the address, and then you take the little picture of the man, you drag it onto the screen so that you can see that street, and you just use Google Maps to look at the street, look at the house, and see if it's anything you'd be interested in. Now, obviously, they're only doing those pictures every so often, maybe every year or two. So you can't rely on that to actually buy the property, but you can rely on it to know, hey, is this an area that looks good? Is it a nice neighborhood that I like, or is it not? And if it's not, you skip it. So cross off all the ones you are not interested in. And then about 5 days before the auction, pull the list again and look to see what's still on the list. And compare your list with its crossed off things versus this fresh list. And again, cross off all the things on the new list that you're not interested in, and then just focus on the ones you are interested in. And that's when you're going to want to do physical due diligence. What that means is get in your car, turn in the key, get driving, and go look at the properties. You need to put eyes on these properties. You need to see the neighborhood. You need to look around and say, you know, is this a good neighborhood? Is it something I'd like? Oh, look at the house. Does the house have signs that it might have had a fire or other serious damage? Because sometimes properties are let go at tax sale because they had a fire and no one can live there anymore and they can't afford to pay for it. So sometimes that's exactly why properties go to tax sale. So never assume that a property is in good condition that it's going to tax sale. Matter of fact, assume that it's not maintained and that it may have had a major loss like a fire or a flood. So when you're looking at the property, pull up to the front, look out your window, and look carefully at the property. Look to see, are the windows and doors, square or rectangular, or are they racked a little bit, meaning twisted? If they're twisted, it means there's a foundation problem, and it's probably a house you don't want. Look at the roof line very carefully. Look and say, is that roof straight across, or is it bowed or sagging? Bowed or sagging, again, signs of some sort of serious problem, probably a foundation problem. Again, something you don't want to get involved in. Look for any signs of fire. Look to see if, for example, at the top windows, is there evidence of smoke coming out of the windows, like blackening in the eaves that overhang the windows? Are there broken out windows? A lot of times properties at tax sale are in very poor condition. Once you've determined as much as you can determine from the street, get out of your car, walk up to the door, knock on the door, and see if anybody's living there. It may be the former owner or soon to be former owner, or it may be a tenant. Talk to them, find out what you can about the property, find out what their plans are. Maybe have a tenant that would like to stay there. Maybe have an owner that is just ready to bail out. You want to get an idea of what you're going to deal with if you buy the property, because at this point you haven't invested anything, but you're getting ready to invest large amounts of money. So wouldn't you rather do that knowing what the story is? Also, as you're walking up to the property, glance in the windows casually. Don't be, creeper peeper, but look in the windows to see what you can see. Are the ceilings falling in from water damage? One time I walked up to a house. This is the truth. I kid you not. I'm walking up to a house and it looks beautiful from the outside. It was a townhouse, so it was attached on both sides, had a beautiful stone facade. I was like, wow, this is really beautiful. This is great. Like, I can't believe it's going to tax sale. So I walk up to the property, and as I'm walking up, I'm sort of casually glancing in the window, and I noticed that I could see the sky through the window, and I thought, that's weird, that's not good. So then I went up to the window and sort of put my head up like this, and yes, I could see the sky because there was no roof. As a matter of fact, there's basically no house behind that facade. What had happened was there was a fire, and the house over the years had just collapsed into the basement. And of course, someone didn't pay the taxes, so there was nothing left. It was just a facade. Now, if the house had been worth enough, it would have been worth scraping the lot and redoing it, but it wasn't. It would have been way more expensive to put a new house in than it was worth, so I skipped it. But I wouldn't have known that if I didn't take my due diligence step of going and looking at the property. And a matter of fact, with that property, another guy bought it. He paid for it thinking that it was a good property, and boy, he looked happy, but I thought, man, when you go see that property, you're not going to be so happy. But at those auctions, people do that. They get bidder's fever, they don't do adequate due diligence, and they're the ones that get hurt. The person that does their homework, that checks out the properties, that's the one that wins at this game. It is a great game. It is a super profitable game. But if you're going to win it, you got to play it the right way. Now, I promised to show you a second way to make money at tax sales. That's what I'm doing these days. I absolutely love it, so I'm going to tell you all about it. So I do something called overages. What overages are is when the property sells for more than the taxes that are due, that extra money is eligible to be claimed by the former owner. And this happens all the time because at tax sales, the auction bidding starts at the taxes that are due. Usually it's just 3 or 4 years worth of taxes. Most of the time that's going to add up to 10 to 15% of the home value. So if we take, say, average house in America, it's a $400,000 house. If it opening bid starts at, say, it's 10% of the value, that would be about $40,000 worth of taxes that are due, which would be very possible with penalties and interest and everything else, be very easily that much. But can you imagine if you're the one that bids and wins that $400,000 property for $40,001. Well, it's possible because the auction literally starts at the taxes that are due, and the person that pays more than the taxes that are due and is the final bidder standing, well, they get the property. It doesn't matter whether it's $1 million property you get for $10,000. The county doesn't care, because all the county is entitled to is to collect the money that they're owed in taxes. They don't get the extra money anyway, so they don't care about it. So at the auction, when you see competitive bidding, there's almost always an overage, because when two people are going back and forth, the bidding started at the taxes that were due. So when two people are going back and forth, that's overages being created. Often it's tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes it's even hundreds of thousands of dollars and extra money left over, yet the homeowners who lost their property rarely get that money. And that's because they don't know about it. They don't know the money exists. They figure, oh, they sold my house, so they keep the money. And the people just kind of crawl off to go rebuild their lives, feeling ashamed, feeling sad, and losing all their money. So what you do as an overages entrepreneur is we get lists of the monies that are being held. We then reach out and contact the people and say, hey, Fred, oh, so glad I got a hold of you. There's some money that you're eligible to claim. It's $50,000. Would you be interested in working with my company? We do that as a service. We get paid if and when we recover money. If we're not successful, it doesn't cost you anything. If we are successful, then you could get a big windfall here. What do you say? You want to give it a try? No risk to you. So basically, that's the talk. And for the people that say, yeah, I'd love to try and get some money. I don't know where this money is, but sure, I'll try. I'll go ahead and give it a shot. For those people, we go and we get the money. When we get the money, we take a percentage of the money that we recover, and we just collect checks. We never buy the judgment. We never buy the debt. We're not putting out money. We're not giving the money up front. We're just doing this work as a service. If and when we're successful, then we get paid. It's a great business. You make clean money. You're not putting money out. You're not borrowing money. You don't have to worry about due diligence. You don't need to worry about a property that had fire damage or water damage. You don't have to drive all over the county. So I think it's a great business. Also, you're helping people. These are people literally kicked out to the curb. When their house is sold at tax sale, they have to move. If they don't move, they will send the sheriff's deputy with a gun to force them out of the house. And they have like 10 minutes to pack their stuff and get out. So no kidding, they will really throw people out without any regard for them. So this is a great service. It's a great service for people that want to make a difference, help people, and make a lot of money for themselves. Amazing business. So if you want to learn about the overages business, down below I put a link for the introduction to the overages business video. You can go check that out. It's about 15 or 20 minutes on this business. There you can get more details. And if you want to move forward and actually enter into this business, I offer education in this. I can teach you the business. Really great business. I love it. You don't need a lot of startup capital. All you need is a willingness to make the effort, and then you can make some money. So this is Attorney Bob Diamond. Go download the list of states that offer the tax deed sales, and go watch my intro to the overages video, and I will see you over there.